Hello and welcome to Genealogy Adventures.
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Danya,
I'm Brian.
and we are going to do a question and answer series today. Um, but before we get into the question and answer series, I want to let you guys know, let's do a quick follow up update on the Sheila Hightower Allen project.
Indeed.
Why is this not showing up? Okay, so the Sheila Hightower Allen project, for those that don't know, that is our DNA project that we have with Howard University. And the project with Howard University is allowing us to work with the students of Howard to do the DNA because we're not scientists. I mean, I don't care what nobody say as far as, genetic genealogy is concerned and all that other stuff. You still have to have some type of science background in order to really and truly understand it.
Yes, and neither one of us has the letters PhD after our name.
Yeah, I don't have PhD after my name, and truth be told, I can't stand science. But Dr. Jackson, who is the overall director of the program, she said that when she's finished, she's going to make me like science. And I just said, okay. And so anyway, as far as the update is concerned, one of the things that we have been working on is getting the information in. Basically, what you have to do is contact us by going to our Sheila Hightower Allen Facebook page, going to the link that will allow you to complete the, what is it called? The
questionnaire.
The questionnaire for us, and the consent form. And once you complete that consent form, you'll send it to us along with your raw data. That consent form is letting us be able to forward the raw data to Howard. But before you forward to Howard, you then have to fill out their questionnaire and their consent form and telling them that they have the right to look at it and view it and do whatever it is that they're going to do. Problem is, that's fine. But the other problem is that they had one student who was actually using DNA for another project.
Not from our
from our project, yes. But from another project that was not. They didn't have consent to do it. So, with that being said, this held everything up for us. Did we expect 2 years? No, we did not. But it is holding us up. We still hold on to the raw data that we haven't received, and there is a lot of consent forms that we have yet to receive. So I need you guys to go and fill them out for those that are doing this. Also, once that is done, once it is complete, we will give you another update. They will both be on the show. When that is, I am not sure. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. Did I miss anything?
No, not really. So, basically things slowed down through no fault of anyone on the team, including Dr. Jackson and Jennifer.
Right.
But, things are back on track now. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the world of higher academia, which is a world I've taught in for many decades, the wheels of higher education research projects move slowly. So, again, all we can say is thank you very much for your interest. We will keep you abreast and up to date. But and thank you for your support. And as Donnie said, please do keep those consent forms coming in.
And thank you for your patience.
Yes.
Because I'm telling y'all, I wasn't a little patient. I mean, I was trying to be. I think I was keeping the genealogy moving in order for me to be patient with the whole situation. But I'm telling you, I felt a certain kind of way.
And for the benefit of our new viewers or people who've joined us since the project started, to cut a very long story short, the whole DNA project, the reason for its existence is Danya, myself, the other researchers that are involved in Genealogy Adventures and who we work with want to prove that everyone in the old 96th district of South Carolina is related, regardless of ethnicity, race,
race.
however you wanted to find it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a study to prove everyone's related.
Yes, that's what it is, and we're going to prove it.
And we're going to prove it.
We're going to prove it.
So, with that said, on to the questions, and thank you for sending those in. I believe, Donna, you have one lined up for us already.
Yes, Samuel actually came out and he had a great question. He says, I have a question. I have a number of shared matches who are descendants of families who enslaved my ancestors. Some of them, who are pretty closely related, third or fourth cousins, proudly display the Confederate flag and other symbols. Have any of you contacted DNA matches like this? And if so, what was the result?
I'm going to say my experience has been kind of 50-50 on that one. Maybe even 60-40, somewhat aggressively negative, the 60% and the 40% positive. It takes a while to explain how you're connected, that it's through an enslaving ancestor. No one really wants to believe that 4, 5, or 6 times great grandpa couldn't keep his breeches buttoned. But, it's in the DNA. The proof is kind of the proof. I don't let that put me off. I mean, we've spoken about this on the phone
Always.
numerous times.
Always.
We have relations in the deep, deep South whose ancestry profiles are festooned with Confederate symbols. Sorry, making that much longer word than it needed to be. Symbols, so flags, statues, everything that you could conceivably think of. Can I just say, while we're on this particular topic, the battle flag of Virginia is not the Confederate flag.
Could you say that a little louder in the back for the people in the back can hear? Yeah, because they need to know that.
Okay, so for people who are proud of their Southern heritage, and we have Southern heritage, and we do,
and I'm very proud of
our
it.
Southern
I'm very
heritage.
proud of where my family comes from.
The battle flag of the Confederacy, the battle flag of Virginia, the one that is mistaken to be the Confederate flag, that was a Virginia flag. If you were in, I don't know, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, you may have seen it if you had family from Virginia, but that was not your battle flag. So to kind of put that one to rest, I'm going to ask you in a minute how you feel when you see that. When I actually email or send a message on Ancestry with someone who has that kind of all those symbols, I expect pushback, or not to get a reply at all, which is, I kind of count that as a negative response, but at least they're not coming back with unpleasantness. Others, trying to flip the coin on its head. Others, they just take it in their stride. They're like, well, our ancestor was an enslaver. No, we're not surprised that we're related to black people. Tell me something about your family, and I'll tell you something about mine, and we kind of take it from there.
Well, for me,
I'm looking at you.
For me, I've had people who at the front will say, yeah, I'm very, especially with Moses, because Moses, my mom connects very deeply with Moses. She actually connects more with Moses than she does with Whitfield.
Okay.
And so that connects us to, she has a lot of, not necessarily Daniel, but his wife. Like, I am constantly getting some type of hints for Ursula and the other one. But it's just like, so I'll talk to them and they'll talk back. And then right after they finish talking back, I may go back to say something and their tree is shut down and I can't reach them.
That happens too.
Yes. So I want to say that they want to pretend. I think most of my encounters have been negative, with the exception of my family that are in Edgefield. Not her, but
well, no, I mean, I'm thinking if Sharon has been amazing.
Sharon has been awesome. Martha has been awesome. I mean, Missy, I just absolutely adore Missy.
Missy,
Price.
you have an unofficial fan club.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but Martha, Missy, Sharon, we have, and it's a few others that I can't quite grab their names, and they're very, very, very helpful. But then I have others who,
Will tell you they don't have any black people in their family.
without a doubt, yes, they will tell. Well, let's be clear. They'll tell you that they don't have any black people in your family. Research your family and then say we're all related in your face. So y'all know me. I can't do fake and phoniness, and I had to be pulled to the side real quick. But yeah, we have that. But I think most of mine has definitely been in a negative way. It really has, because when they shut their tree down, I'm no longer able to do anything. And if they're not going to respond, it's negative.
I'm going to say from my experience, because I've been researching in so many different parts of the South, especially what I call the Upper South, I guess my experience, again, is really different, because most of my Virginia enslaving connections have been really helpful, really supportive. They just take it in their stride, and I've gotten really, really very little pushback. North Carolina, it can go 50-50, from being openly hostile to being really supportive. South Carolina, once you start hitting South Carolina and working your way deeper into the South, that's when the negative number starts climbing up. And interesting, I don't know why this is, white relations in Kentucky and Tennessee, vicious. Really, really, really unpleasant.
Wow.
The only caveat I have to that are perhaps cousins in West Virginia who, again, I tell this story all the time. He's probably knocking on 82, 83 now. One of my own family relations, he describes himself as being an unrepentant redneck.
Wow.
But I love him to bits. He loves me to bits. We try to speak to each other at least once a month. He always makes me laugh. And he's just a treasure trove. He's like, I don't know if this little detail is going to be really important, but did you know that blah, blah, so-and-so married so-and-so? And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't find that record. So he, just in casual conversations, two cousins, separated by, a huge amount of time, just kind of gassing on the phone and exchanging information.
Yeah. Hamas said Holly, Gina, and Dana, they are Settles women. They are great. And they really are. And I didn't have a good opening with the Settles family at the beginning. But Holly, Gina, and Dana, he is absolutely right. They are awesome.
And Candace has been really helpful with you on your
How did I not say Candace? Candace was my first. She was my mentor. Like, she was the first one that really started pushing me. I'm sorry, Candace. She was the first one that really started pushing me and just directing me and guiding me. She is awesome. Like, she is so to the point where she does not see color at all. Like, I've never met anyone like Candace. And she doesn't see color. Missy. Those are the two. They don't see color at all.
And interestingly, because none of the people that we just mentioned, from Sharon, Missy, all of those people, not one of them have Confederate flags all over their. They may have saved Civil War pension files, but you need those because that's
a part of it's a part of your research.
It's part of your research and it's genealogical proof, but you don't see them having Confederate flags and all that paraphernalia like littered all over their family.
No, because they respect it. They're the type of respect that they have. They know what it is that they're doing. They know that, yes, this is my family. Yes, this is what, I may have come from this in one way or another, but it's not who I am. So do I not like what they've done? No, I don't like what they've done, but I still respect my family. And they show the respect for those people, whether they did bad or good during that time. They still show the respect for them. And hell, who is my favorite person? Preston Brooks. I freaking love him. But
well, that's because you recognize so much of him in
me,
and how you respond to situations and people.
Yeah, I'm a lot like that man. I'm a lot like that hot-headed man.
Yeah, there was no middle ground with Preston. He loved you or he hated you. There was very little in between. But again, this is a really good question for another reason, and I'm thinking about Missy Price in particular, because she's working really, really hard trying to get Black descendants in the kind of that region of South Carolina, the old 96, the DNA test.
Right.
Because she has a working theory about, again, what we're discussing and what we're going to discuss in a bit, about how African Americans who especially have European ancestry, there's really one way you got that.
That's right. That's
And,
right. You're so right.
Yeah, and she wants to make that a subject of DNA, of a DNA study. And between us, Donnie and I have found probably 4 dozen living descendants of the families that Missy is looking at in particular. Price is one, and I forget who the other family was. Edwards and Price's. We found, a good about 4 dozen living descendants,
But
and
they won't test.
not one of them wants to test.
And that's what she needs. She needs you to test, And if we can just get you to test, that would be awesome.
But I have a feeling that part of the reluctance goes back to, well, do I really want to know that I'm related to
white people,
or to
black
white
people,
but specifically to possible racists and white supremacists?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does. That's just what it is. You have some people that, just like you have some white people that don't want to be related to black people, you have some black people that don't want to be related to white people. And in my opinion, and I need you guys to really hear me when I say this, in my opinion, I think it's stupid. I just think that it's crazy. But this is my opinion. That's why I have to keep saying this. This is my opinion. I find it not helpful to move forward.
I can kind of see where they're coming from, though, because there is going to be some pain.
Pain.
I think there's a group of people who get into genealogy thinking it's going to be a fun hobby and what they're going to learn. But there are stories of, tragedy and I'm just going to say general unpleasantness, especially if you're dealing with ancestors who were enslaved.
Right.
But that's part and parcel of our ancestral history.
Right.
You can't unwind that clock back. You can't unring that bell.
Right.
It's part of you. And how people, I guess, choose to embrace that is a learning curve.
There was a post just recently, and this is not the first time this has happened, but there was a post where this teacher had put up, basically, in a long story short, she made her students price enslaved people. Yeah.
As a form of teaching slavery.
As a form of teaching slavery. Now, my response to it was, and I need to know how you guys feel, because I don't understand why people are shocked. I don't even understand why you're heartbroken. Because at this point, this is not the first time that this has happened. And it won't be the last until we start addressing how to teach the true history of America. We have to address it. Point blank. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to be addressed. So the way that it's being done is a problem, not just because of how it's being done, but who's doing it. And sometimes you're going to actually have someone who doesn't have as much melanin as you and I, that's going to teach this. You need to show them how to teach it.
Which is why one of my oldest arguments about this is school boards. Because this is all a school board issue, really. There are so many African American genealogical societies, and it's actually broader than that because it involves the Native American history as well. If you're talking about the kind of states that border Mexico, you're talking about Norte Americanos history. School boards should reach out to local history and genealogical societies that touch on those groups of people and include them in the curriculum development process. And who knows, they may even be really interested to come into the schools and actually teach that part of American history.
Exactly.
And as any genealogist knows, you learn history as you're doing your genealogy.
That's right.
And a lot of genealogists are also historians and vice versa. So I just feel as though there's a pool of knowledgeable, talented people who can go into schools and teach something that is age appropriate.
So we were talking about this morning, weren't we?
We were.
We
We
were.
were.
And
Because, I mean, you wouldn't teach slavery to, say, an 8-year-old the same that you would teach it to a 14-year-old, and you wouldn't teach it the same way to a 17-year-old, because
That's
they
right.
just have different mental...
it's different levels. It's different levels to it, and it's different. It's a yeah. This is well, you guys know it. Those that do the research, but those that just follow us, there is a mental place that you have to that you have to place yourself in order for you to do this. And I have to admit, and I said this for those that read my book, I said this in my book. I think I put myself in that mental place. I think I put myself way too deep in it because I can really take in a lot of stuff. I mean, I could take in a lot. Like when I found the information about my Martha, and it did not piss me off. It did not anger me. It did not. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next thing I need to do? Whereas anybody else would have found what she went through or would have found what I found, they would have had an issue, you know? And it's so funny because I know y'all think I'm crazy, and it is what it is. Okay, fine. But that, I think even Martha had an issue with me not responding. And that's why she started to introduce me to other things. And that's how I got into the book, House of Bondage.
Yeah.
That's how I got into it. And she started showing me different things that they went through being enslaved as women. When I tell y'all, I found a story about a woman being hung by her thumbs, and she was killed like that. I had to really, I'm like, hold up, what? And these things kept being brought to me, and she was like, I'm going to need you to pull yourself out just a little bit. I know what you're doing, I know what you're trying to do, but I still need you to detach from not being detached. So that you can understand what we went through so that you can explain it better. And it made sense. And now I can explain it better, but I still have a strong.
Well, it's what I call academic distance. So, academics are taught to not emotionally respond to upsetting or disturbing information. You process the information, you think about it, and then there's a point where you allow yourself to feel those feelings. Mm-hmm. So for me, my ancestor that I went through with that was Louisa Hammond.
Yes, you did.
I'm still kind of angry about it. I'm not going to lie. So it's disturbing to find out that an ancestor at the age of 12 was being passed back and forth between her enslaver and one of his sons at the age of 12 and a mother at the age of 13. And of course, DNA-wise, that's really tricky to figure out which one of the two men was actually the father of all of her children.
Especially when they say, "Yeah, we hit that." Basically, yeah. I mean, that's just what that's what they say. Yeah, we did. Yeah, it happened. I could be the father. My son could be the father. They said that.
Pretty much.
So you looking at him like, did you really? And you gotta when he told me that story, I'm not ready. I mean, I know I'm going to have to be ready. When he's ready, then I'll be ready and I'll deal with it. But I already know that that's the one that's going to truly crush me. Mm-hmm. Because it crushed me when I saw the flyer of the little babies being set as bait for the alligators so that they could get their alligator shoes and their belts. And that made me get off of the internet for a couple of days. That happened years ago. But yeah. So it's the children that's going to hit me. I already know it's going to be the children. I talk about kids all the time and how they little crumb snatchers and they get on my nerves. But I'm telling y'all, I love kids to death. And I will give my right arm for them. I'll jump in front of a car for anybody's child so that the child won't be hurt. And it's going to be, and that's a baby. Mm-hmm. That was a baby. She was 12, 13 years old, being passed back and forth between grown men. Okay, let's go to the next.
So, two variations on the same theme. The next question is, every African-American family has the surname of the slave owner. True or false? And that comes from Darius. I'm going to say yes and no.
Right.
From my own experience, first of all, going to say that, and and again, because this really hasn't been studied, I can't even really say what I was going to say. From my own experience and my own ancestry so far, at least 90% of my enslaved ancestors had a surname. It may not have been always documented, but they had one. And the names that they took were biologically the name that they were entitled to take. Now, whether that came from their white father or their mother's white father, that could be 50-50. They didn't always take the name of their father, but they did take the names that they were biologically entitled to. I've got a couple of funny ones who just created names out of the ether. One of them knew who his white enslaving father was, and when he was freed in he's a free man by 1869, and they're asking him what his name was. Story goes, he thought about it for a couple of minutes. He was in an onion field, and he just bent down, picked up an onion. And he's like, "My name is Jonathan Onion."
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm calling myself. Just because the relationship between him and his father was not a good one. Donnie and I have seen many instances, and we still don't know why it happened, where a family will start off with one name, and looking at who they connect to DNA-wise, it's a plausible name for them to have. And then out of the ether, they just completely change the name to something else. So we have Harrisons people who are calling themselves Harrisons who are actually Freemans who are actually biologically Harrisons.
Yeldale. Harrison's
Yeldale.
and Yeldale. That's the one. That right there that's the one that I freaked out. Brian was like, he just laughed at me. Loretta laughed at me. And I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. And because my Yeldales do that to me so much and so often. And now I'm at a point where I'm just waiting for the last shoe to drop because the other was Oliphant. I have not found that yet. I haven't. That's the one name that I haven't, gotten. But I'm telling you, I know it's coming. It's coming. Then we have people who have just changed their entire name. Their whole life was picked up and moved on to somebody else. And I find his great-grandson just recently, just to tell his great-grandson, yeah, I know why you can't find your great-grandfather before 1910. Because his name is not the name that you know him as. So, yeah, that particular question about the true or false, the surname, I'm going to agree with Brian and say that it's a either or.
Because I'm going to admit, I've actually gone back to those WPA freedmen and freedwomen narratives, people who were formerly enslaved. Some of them actually are talking about where their names came from, saying, "Oh, we liked the old missus and we liked the old master, so we took his name." And I'm thinking, I'm wondering if that's true, or if they're being prudent and politically correct for the times. Think about the times that they're living in, even when they're being interviewed. I mean, by the time they're interviewed for the WPA, they're still living in the grips of Jim Crow.
Oh, most definitely.
There was no racial harmony. So can you imagine if word got out that you were acknowledging, say, a prestigious or well-respected enslaver in the community going, yeah, that's my daddy, or that's my granddaddy. Once those WPA people left, you're still stuck in the town or the place that you're living.
That's right. You got to be able to stay there.
Having to face those consequences.
Right.
So, maybe it's hard to tell with those WPA narratives because they're written in a way that both enlightens and obscures.
Well, I'm going to tell you, WPA narratives lost me once I read House of Bondage. It just did. It lost me because the House of Bondage showed and proved that we didn't speak like that. And then we have a family member, we have a person on one of our pages where we specific with Edgefield. And she actually pointed out to me that her ancestor was interviewed. And she was telling her family, she was like, hey, why didn't y'all tell me? Y'all know I'm doing this research. Why didn't y'all tell me this? They didn't tell her because they were like, oh, he didn't talk like that, so we didn't share that. He spoke like her, he spoke fine, but they want to put in there that slave dialect that we have been told that we spoke like. At this point, I don't think we ever spoke that way. With all of the things that I've found, I don't think that has ever been our conversation in that way. So yeah, I don't even trust the I mean, not trust it.
You treat it with a degree of skepticism.
Thank you. Because I couldn't figure out the best words.
The flip side of that for me, same topic, is thinking about one of my father's ancestors, George Henry Roan. He was bequeathed money from his former enslaver, which he had to sue to get. So there's a transcript. There's court notes,
Right.
Affidavits, all of that kind of legal paraphernalia in terms of documents. So he's being interviewed, and he's speaking perfectly recognizable English. So it's not that kind of slave ebonics or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So he may not, George, bless him, may not have been able to write, but he could speak.
But he could speak
And
just fine.
He spoke really well.
He could speak just fine. So, but we have some quick questions, just some cover stuff. Martha asked, is it too late for a new person to submit DNA and consent? No, it is not. This is an ongoing thing. And because everything is going the way that it is right now, we request that you guys continue to send in stuff. And we want the people who have already sent in stuff to get their consent forms filled out. You know who you are. If not, contact me. I'll let you know if I got it or not. And then, of course, we have Monica and everybody just kind of saying hello. So I want to say hi to all those that are speaking.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, from Atlanta, Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, South Carolina. Let's see. Are there any actual questions up here?
Well, while Dinah's looking for those,
Okay.
the other side of the topic we just finished, from Scott, did enslaved individuals have surnames? I think they sort of did. I think others knew what their surname was, and it could change during their life from generation to generation. The problem is they don't often have surnames in wills, court records, personal diaries, etc. Of the enslavers. I'm going to say that in the course of researching, I've been kind of surprised at how many enslaved people were referenced with the surname in all manner of documents. Even thinking about, I've seen like the Crump family of Northern Neck, Virginia. Their names start appearing in slave deeds and wills and estate inventories. Their full name as early as like 1705, 1710. There are baptism records. There are slave baptism records with full names. So there's the name of the mother, there's the name of the father, and then there's the name of the kid.
Right.
So they have names. So that's been a learning curve for me. And again, because I don't think anyone has really studied this. There's so many aspects of slavery that hasn't been studied. And it frustrates my soul because it always seems as though the same aspect of slavery gets studied.
Right.
But not the bits that I would really find informative.
Right.
And this is one of them. So I can say hand on heart, was it a common occurrence? I don't know. I can't say that I've seen it to such a degree that I'm going to say, oh yeah, it was absolutely commonplace. But what I find interesting is down my family lines, my enslaved family lines, when I'm looking, especially those that were held within the same family for multiple generations, that first record that their full name appears on, they knew who they were. And I'll tell you another reason why I knew who they knew who they were descended from. The names they gave their kids.
Naming pattern is a huge, huge thing.
Every single time.
That's right. That's right. Naming pattern. Because we definitely confirmed our naming patterns with the Williams line and the Petersons.
And the Holloways.
And the Holloways. Like, when I tell you guys there is someone There's a Georgiana on every level of the Petersons, white or black. There's a Georgiana on every level. And it's just amazing to me. It really is. So yeah, I want you guys to know that using us having the surname, if they had their own individual surnames, yeah, they did. But I think they also took on their enslavers' surnames because they wanted you to know who they were. People have to realize they are a lot smarter than they thought.
Mm. They had to just survive.
Exactly.
Survive. They had to be.
Enslaved people are way smart. Enslaved people were way smarter than a lot of people thought. That needs to be known. That needs to be, you guys really need to understand that. And with that being said, I can tell you a story about a deacon at the church actually came out of his mouth one time and said that those that founded the Springfield here in D.C. basically called them dumb. Now, I had an issue with that because you talking about my granddaddy and my grandmama, okay? You calling both of them dumb. But what you fail to realize is that my grandparents started a church that was paid for in a year. So how can you be dumb?
And that wasn't the first church.
And that wasn't the first church that they started. And both are still in existence today. So I need for you to really explain to me, how can they be dumb? These men and women with very little schooling was able to build churches, start them, pull people together, pay them off. You know what I'm saying? Get their families, do the things that they were doing. Make sure my grandmother worked. My grandmother made sandwiches to pay for one of my uncles to go to school. How can you call them dumb? Respect them, regardless of who they are.
It's like the article that was talking about how women were selling fried chicken at the side of the train tracks.
Yes.
How people were looking down on those women in that article. And again, these were newly freed enslaved women.
Yes.
And they were putting food on the table in the way that they knew how to do it. And if that meant selling fried chicken, cold water, whatever it was to train passengers, that's what they did. I'm proud of them. That shows entrepreneurial spirit. We're not looking for handouts from nobody.
Right.
We're going to look after ourselves.
Right. Melvin Collier, he put up here, he said, I agree, naming patterns are fascinating. Our ancestors recorded their history in the names. Exactly. And that's what they did. It's an all, I love it. I love everything about genealogy.
George Henry Roan, who is my link to Patrick Henry, when you start, his middle name was Henry, which, could be meaningless in and of itself. But the fact that he named his firstborn child Patrick Henry Roan, he named him for his grandfather, and then that name, Patrick Henry, down that Roan family line,
right?
Patrick Henry Price, Patrick Henry Roan, Patrick Henry Christian, Patrick Henry James, every single generation. So immediately I'm like, coincidence or not? Oh, look at who his possible father is. Oh, look at who his grandmother was.
Right.
Anne Henry.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, they knew. They knew it. At least the families that I've studied, most of them do. We still have a question about the Senior family, but we've clocked. We already know that there are distinctive names in the Senior family from South Carolina.
Yeah, good question right here. Taft, and I believe this is from the African American Genealogy Forum, because we do watch parties. And Taft says, does Negro classification on early census, is it synonymous with slave?
Well, what census actually?
Early censuses. So we're talking like 1900. He didn't put it up there, but I'm gonna assume anywhere from the time that they started putting us up there, 1870 up.
Well, from 1790, there were free people of color. I mean, even before 1790, there were free people of color.
Right.
So no, racial classification, not an indication of enslavement in any way, shape, or form. Especially if you're seeing them in like from 1790 to 1850, if you're seeing a person of color, whether they're black or mulatto, they're free.
They're free.
'Cause-
Yeah, that's true. To the 1850 census, that's very true. So then let me see. Is that so? Carter says the mystery of my ancestor, who I don't want to put her ancestor's name out there, who died in St. Mary's County, Maryland, 1806, was a slave-owning ancestor of mine. He appears in the 1790 and 1800 census records. My biggest brick wall is not knowing the identity of his parents. I share DNA with many of the descendants, but he is my primary target. No one seems to know anything about his parentage. So, go ahead.
So this is another really good question.
Because it's not going all the way through. I didn't get all of it.
Okay, sorry about that. So hopefully what I'm doing at the moment will be helpful. And again, for those of you who've been following us for any number of years, know that Donnie and I are still trying to find the remainder of Moses Williams' 45 children.
He made me do it.
I made her do it. I did. She's being really kind when she says that. So what I've done is, and I'll post a link to this using something called the Beyond Kin methodology, which is absolutely awesome. What I did is I created a label that actually looks like a spouse, and that label's just called basically Williams in the Old 96 who may be related to Moses. But these are all descendants of people with the last name Williams in that particular part of South Carolina who are popping up on our DNA list.
Right.
So I know that they connect to us in one way, shape, or form. The most obvious would seem Moses.
Right.
We're going to connect more than one way, but Moses is the most direct route. So I have this label, basically, Williams found in Old 96 after, from 1870 onwards. I just add every individual person that I can find to that list. And that's what I'm calling, it's a form of cluster genealogy.
Right.
So it's grounded in a specific place with individuals born within, 30 years of each other that are appearing in those 1870 and 1880 census returns. And just slowly kind of looking at where they live. I'm looking at the townships, who's living around them, the families that are living around them, because Williams seemed to like marrying. Well, again, he had 45 kids, so there's just going to be tons of marriages at the end stop. But what I would suggest to Carter is to go back to those early documents, and I know that the 1790 census in particular isn't great because it only lists the head of the household by name, but look at who else is living around him with that same surname. Chances are, because again, even though we don't want to say the surname out loud, it's not an unusual surname, but it's not a common one.
Right.
Either. It's a distinctive
surname. And then the other thing is that type of research, that's the one where we had to write it down first.
Yeah.
So we had to make our own chart, and in doing that. And I think writing that chart, making that chart was the best way for us to really figure out, because looking at it on the computer, it wasn't giving us the same effect. It wasn't giving us the same look that we needed in order for us to understand. Because in doing that writing that chart up and making that up, we started to see some of his children.
Yeah, we could see the pattern.
We could see the patterns, and we actually saw the children. So we saw Moses Jr. right away, and it was so great because they gave the year he was born. Mm-hmm. They gave the age that he was. So we were like, oh my God. So we really knew what age. This is why Moses is so fascinating, because we know for a fact that this man was born in 1769 simply because of the deeds that we had. They listed in the deed that he was 22 years old. I will never ever forget that. Yep. They listed in the deed 22, and that deed at that time was 22 years away from 69, so we were like, oh my God, we know his age.
And every single enslaved person on all of those deeds
had ages. It was amazing. They had ages. So Hamad,
So I just wanted
Oh, go ahead. I'm
one more
sorry.
thing for Carter. The other thing that you want to do, because this is a St. Mary's County, Maryland question, is find the old land maps. I would start from, well, let's see, you're talking about 1790. Start from about 1750, then go to like maybe 1820. Really take a look at St. Mary's County, take a look at how the boundaries may have changed, but more importantly, get those land plat maps. Those are the maps where they're actually like a town or a village is actually hand drawn, and you can see exactly what
Where they
families
live. That's
were living.
right.
Take a look at who's living next to your ancestor, and again, that should give you some further avenues to explore.
Yes. So Hamad wanted to make a comment about the naming pattern, and this was, as I want to go back to that real quick. He actually said that, he says, I like how our male ancestors used their wife's maiden name, and that's something too, as a middle name for their children. So we had that. Like I definitely had William, what was his name, William Yeldale Quarles.
Yes.
He kept it like that. Only problem with that is that one day you find him as William Yeldale, and the next day you find him as William Quarles. So that was my issue with that was one of those. But we did have families that actually put that middle name and their mother's maiden name as their middle name. That was a good point, Hamad. Thank you so much.
But again,
Hamad is one of our genealogical workers as well that we work with.
He is a star when it comes to the Suttles family.
He is the star when it comes.
So, again, names, but this time first names. We know that we have Pinckneys somewhere in our ancestry because of all the men who have the first name Pinckney, whether it's Pinckney Matthews, Mathis, Settles, Harrison, Higgins. We know that there is a Pinckney family connection that's going to be coming at us in some way, shape, or form. Kemp is another one. It's not used as a first name very often, but when it is, you're like, okay, this is in some, I don't see how yet, but in some way, especially if you're talking about a Kemp Borum, born 1847.
Right.
Not really sure where you're going to be going with this, but I have a feeling you're going to be heading back to the Kemp family.
Exactly. And then let me just say, if you see Carrie, trust me, Brunson is not far behind.
This is true.
When I tell you guys, it's so funny because when I was talking to Loretta yesterday, and she was saying something about the Carries, and I was like, well, it's probably a Brunson. And she said, really? And I'm like, well, it's always a Brunson. It's always, I said, we got to carry Brunson on every line, in every family, at every turn. And then sure enough, we have another Carrie Brunson on the tree. So it's amazing how the Carrie Brunsons of our family just constantly shows up over and over and over again. So Carrie is a serious name in our family.
Yeah.
And,
Well, again, just like if I see John W., whatever it is, coming out of Edgefield, it's 9 times out of 10, it's going to be John Wesley.
Yep.
And then usually
He's going to be a Settles.
And 7 times out of 10, it's going to be a Settles. Yeah.
Or Alonzo. He's going to be a
Settles.
Settles. Yeah, it's always like that. So, yeah, but do you guys have any questions as well? We still got just under 10 minutes to answer any questions. And while we're waiting for your questions, can we talk about what our next shows are going to be? What we're, or do we want to wait until afterwards? Because I'm excited.
Let's wait until after New Year's on that one.
Okay.
I know. I'm excited too. But
I'm excited.
I've got a good topic for us to talk about. Because again, it's something I've been seeing in Facebook groups. It's funny how on Facebook you just get certain themes like every month. And this theme is how do I approach DNA, basically a stranger who's a DNA cousin. What would be your advice for sending a message on whether it's my heritage, family tree, ancestry, to increase your chances of getting a response back?
From someone who doesn't want to respond?
No, this is you see a cousin who's a match list on your match list, say a fourth or a fifth cousin. First time out, you're sending them a message.
What do I say?
What would be your advice about how to structure that message?
I always let them know what I'm doing, who I am, how long I've been doing it. I think that if they know that I've been doing it for a really long time, and if they're, because it's the possibility of them being new to it, and if they're like, oh, okay, I know, I got somebody who's been doing it for 20 years, I need to talk to them. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one of the reasons. You know, I can honestly say, as far as Melvin is concerned, when I first saw Melvin on the Who Do You Think You Are? And I first saw him, I'm like, and then I saw him on Our Black Ancestry. I was like, oh my God, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? Because I was new at it. And that was something, that way I had somebody who could possibly help me in one way or the other. So that made me feel good to be able to contact somebody in that way. So letting them know my expertise in it, I feel like is one of the best things you could do. Another thing, give them some background. Yeah. Let them know why you're connecting them. You know, today I had to contact the lady because I felt like we're probably related, and I gave her my spiel of who I am, how long I've been doing it, and then I said, I'm contacting you because, and went into why and who the person was. And I told him that person, if this is what I think it is, then that person is my mother's first cousin once removed. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm letting them know, yeah, I already know we're related, and this is possibly how we're related. So I think if you do something like that, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, they got information. And if your information is wrong, they're going to be like, oh, well, they're on the right track, but let me let them know this. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. That's how I think the best way, you know, that way you can share, you offer the share. Because we have to share, y'all. We have to share. In order for us to move forward, black and white, Native American, Asian, whatever.
Everybody.
We have to share.
Because my advice would be to be as specific in your details as possible. So, for instance, if you're gonna send me a message on Ancestry going, oh, Mary Holloway is my 4 times great grandmother. Well, I've got 300 Mary Holloways in my tree.
1,000.
So, my advice would be to give, you know, if known, the birth year, the death year, the county, and if you can, the town where your ancestors were living, the name of a spouse, the name of their parents. So if you can give really, really structured details like those, I also think probably increases your, you know, the chance.
Right, your chance.
So just say, oh, I've got Harrison's in Edgefield. Well, so does
everybody.
So does 3/4 of Edgefield.
3/4
That's really helpful.
Patrick said, what's the connection to the corals out of Virginia? We're still working on that.
We're still working on that one.
We're actually still working on that one, but they definitely connect. We're pretty certain that they connect.
Only because the Quarrels in Virginia is just a massive family. Because I have Virginia Quarrels all over Virginia. So yeah, it's going to connect at some point, but we just don't know where.
Yeah, and then Sharon Amos, you guys come right when we're about to shut down, but I want to get this question answered. Sharon Amos asked, I have DNA tested with 23andMe and uploaded to GEDmatch, wondering if testing with Ancestry would give me any more information. I think it would.
I mean, it's not going to really tell you anything more about your ethnicity than you know already.
Right.
But it will put you in touch with more DNA cousins who didn't test, what was it, 23andMe?
Right.
Yeah.
And then it also, the other thing that I feel like Ancestry does is because it has the trees there, you get a better connection. You get not necessarily a better connection, but a better understanding. And when you, with your DNA, and to see how somebody else's tree matches with your tree, and then it connects via DNA, it's a better understanding. So I definitely think you should do Ancestry, but I have my other feelings.
But my caveat would be that what you're used to in 23andMe in terms of...
It's going to be totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, it's going to be totally different.
Yeah. In terms of 23andMe have more kind of DNA analysis tools for you to play with than Ancestry does.
Then Callie says, are your Kemps in Virginia? Kemps are in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Fauquier County, Goochland.
Yes.
All up there for me.
Yes. And then Pickens is a common first name on my Edgefield County Borum line.
Pickens. Forgot about that one. Yeah,
Exactly.
we're gonna be getting
exactly.
pickings.
So we want to thank you guys. Oh, Harold, we're gonna answer yours because we got to get out of here.
We're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, but thank you guys for following us, for being here and joining in and asking your questions. Continue to ask them. We will come back to these.
We will.
And we will answer them on here as well. We will not be back on the show online live until January 26th.
Mm-hmm. So what we'll be doing is kind of running the best of series.
Right. We're gonna open up with, for our Listen Vision people, we're gonna give you that first season. We're gonna try to give you that first season so you can get a feel of who we are, what we do, things of that nature. So thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your Sundays with us.
Yes, and we will see you guys after the new year.
On the 26th
Can we
of
tell
January.
them one show? Just one?
Just give him one.
Okay. Melvin is going to join us on the 26th. And he's going to talk to us about his blog and all the things he's done. And I'm very excited. Melvin is actually going to open our Black History Month. We're starting our Black History Month a week before. Mm-hmm. So it's starting on January 26th. And I'm really excited about that. And I hope you guys join us for that. And then we're going to go from there.
Oh, I forgot the most obvious. However you celebrate, happy Hanukkah, happy
Kwanzaa,
happy Christmas,
everything, happy holidays, period.
Happy New Year's, New Year's Eve.
Yes, thank you to Listen Vision. Thank you, just keep watching on us, y'all, and we'll see you next year.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.